Story 1. The lazy manager didn't want to hear our complaints, so we made our own rules and got compensation. This happened in December 2013. I had just turned 18 and wanted to find my first job to earn enough to pay for college myself. My very first job was as a kind of all-around helper. I worked at a Coca-Cola stand in the game zone of a children's fair. It was only a one-week gig, but the pay was decent for a young girl trying to make money on her own, even with the inconvenient hours. There were 4 of us teenagers, 5 game zones, and about 30 rotating kids at each stand at any given moment. The other 3 had worked there before, and 1 girl had done it several times. Naturally, we made her the team lead. And of course, we had a manager, let's call her Lazy B. She spent her time filing her nails and scrolling on her phone while we tried to organize ourselves. We juggled 2 stands at once. Entertained kids, made sure nothing got lost or broken, calmed parents, persuaded kids to take turns, handled tantrums, and chased after unattended toddlers, bringing them to security when they said they were lost. Being the fastest and the newbie, I took on this lost child runner role without hesitation. After our first shift, Lazy B was supposed to hear our complaints. The job was stressful, and our team lead said that staff had been known to just walk out mid-shift before. So she wasn't surprised that a manager was assigned to keep things in order. But Lazy B left 2 hours before closing. She didn't look at us, didn't say a word, nothing, and we did have complaints. We needed at least 2 more people to handle one of the games. In 2 games, we had to constantly chase plastic swords or crawl around collecting bottle caps every 2 seconds. Otherwise, some unsupervised toddler could swallow them. Plus, we needed at least half an hour before and after shifts to prepare and clean up. At the end of the day, our team lead took out her phone and tiredly asked for our complaints to pass them to Lazy B herself. Judging by her tone, she didn't expect much. I asked why we didn't just send them directly to the people who hired us. She paused, and then smiled in a way that told me something had clicked. She wrote down our complaints and questions, promising to send a report not only to Lazy B's bosses but also to our employer. The next day, Lazy B showed up early, fuming. The team lead confirmed that yes, we'd sent the letter. Lazy B's face turned an odd shade of red, but all she said was, "The company has no money to hire more people. You'll just have to manage 1 person per game. Lost kids are not our responsibility. Angry parents? Tell them to leave." Not only did she refuse to fix a single problem, she dismissed them outright, called us incompetent and spoiled, and hinted our pay might be cut in half. That's when our quiet little rebellion began. We shut down the most problematic and popular game, citing staff shortages. We put up barriers at the exit and limited attendance to 30 people including parents. Then we closed the second most difficult game mine 3 hours early so we could take short breaks. If a child got lost, we loudly called security instead of leaving our posts. We smiled at screaming parents until their anger fizzled out. That day, we earned about half as much as we would in a half shift despite working 12 hours plus prep and cleanup. Most of it was tips from parents. Our team lead recorded everything, meticulously sending daily complaint updates to management. She even contacted the union, had a lawyer friend review our contracts, and kept our work running like a well-oiled machine despite the chaos. By the last day, things had calmed down. Lazy B didn't show suspicious, but a relief. In the morning, we worked with a small tourist group of about 10 people. They didn't speak our language, but I spoke theirs bad accent and all, so I acted as a guide while the kids played. When Lazy B finally came toward our stand, some of the parents I'd told about her recognized her and asked me to step away, so they could say goodbye. Moments later, a group of smiling tourists waltzed past the register, kissed me on the cheek, and dropped $50 bills into each of our tip jars before leaving. Lazy B stormed over, demanding to know what was going on. Then she declared all tips would go to the company because they were earned on company property and we should be grateful our pay wasn't being cut. That's when our team lead lost it completely, politely but firmly explaining in detail what would happen if they touched our money, citing corporate policy word for word. Then she asked if we were willing to take it to court because her lawyer friend said we had a case. She also assured me I didn't have to join if I didn't want to. After all, it was my first job and no one was going to pressure us. If I or anyone else felt even slightly uncomfortable, she'd go to court on her own. One coworker, of course, was all for it. She fully supported the idea. The second one hesitated. And I said the following: "If you need help, I'll help you." "Really? Are you sure?" "I'm sure. I wasn't planning on going back to this job next year anyway, and I don't want whoever they hire next to be treated the same way we were." That was the most important thing for me. Strange as it may sound, I've never worked before, but I've seen the consequences of a toxic work environment, and I don't want anyone else to go through that even now. Long story short, we got our full pay plus compensation 10 times the amount for the damages. In the end, in just 1 week. I earned enough money to pay for a year of college tuition. Thank you, Miss Manager, for being such a bitch. Story 2: the hotel owner turned out to be a cheapskate and told me to raise prices right before the season. Now nobody comes to this hotel anymore. A few years ago, I was managing a mid-sized hotel in Florida with 40 rooms. It used to be 2 old neighboring beachfront motels that a foreign investor bought, fully renovated, and turned into one modern boutique hotel. The location was perfect for this type of business before the pandemic. It was prime real estate. The manager before me was building the hotel's reputation as a place people would want to come back to, which was important, considering the previous manager was actually the owner's ex-girlfriend, who pretty much drove away all the long-time guests. One of them even told me they made it clear we're not welcome, which she literally had told them. Our guests were mostly middle-class retirees who had been vacationing in Florida for decades. The owner himself was an unpleasant guy with zero experience in hospitality. His background was in retail overseas. He was a self-absorbed narcissist with a matching attitude toward people. He kept interfering in the renovations, making incredibly stupid and sometimes outright harmful decisions, and forcing the manager to implement them. Luckily, she was smart and experienced enough to work around most of his nonsense. But sometimes he insisted, and things inevitably went sideways. When I eventually took over hotel operations, the owner didn't interfere much at first. Our main clientele was cruise ship tourists, regular vacationers, conference attendees, and guests coming for annual events, especially music festivals, local celebrations, and, most importantly, the International Boat Show. That 1 week was huge. Yacht companies would sell their boats to wealthy clients just a 10-minute walk from our hotel. The hotel wasn't exactly luxurious, but it had 40 rooms, multiple beds per room, full kitchens, and a perfect location. We became the go-to place for yacht company staff, offering discounts, personalized service, and even BBQ nights. I built relationships with yacht company managers and captains because when a boat is sold, it often stays for modifications and the crew needs a place to live. Word of mouth in those circles is everything, and I made sure our reputation was gold. We had a great year. We nurtured long-term relationships and made the hotel comfortable for niche but important groups. Then the pandemic hit. We were nearly empty for 6 months, had to let almost everyone go, and slowly recovered. Cruise ships never returned, but regular vacationers came back in full force. Soon we were packed again. Then the owner got upset that I hired a new front desk administrator. Why pay someone when I could do it myself? Same with the maids, why shouldn't they do laundry too? Our property manager, she should also handle accounting. Around that time, the owner bought himself a yacht for no reason and tried to dump its maintenance on our property manager. After months of putting up with him, she quit. We're still friends. He replaced her with his daughter. Like father, like daughter. In their country, manager just means boss, and they had no idea there's a difference between managing property and managing a hotel. She immediately decided she was running the hotel, and I was there to take orders. 1 month before the boat show and right before high vacation season, they had their brilliant idea: jack up the rates. Why are we selling rooms so cheap? Let's triple the rates during the boat show. We can make twice the money. Oh, and remove free parking. Nobody else around here offers it, so it's not a competitive advantage, right? Their plan was to change the prices on existing reservations and start charging for parking even when it was clearly listed as free. Many of those bookings were made a year in advance, mostly by guests who reserved on site before leaving. Last year's show, they wanted me to call every one of them and say the price went up by 50% and parking during the show was now $100 a day. I hated this. I was sure this wasn't even legal in the US, and I sure as hell didn't want to call people I knew personally to deliver that news. I pushed back hard, explaining why it was a terrible idea, what it would do to our reputation. The owner Didn't listen. He just said, I hear you, but trust my business instincts. I've made millions. His daughter said, your direct supervisor made a decision and gave you instructions. It's not your job to think or ask questions, just call everyone and explain. That's your job. Fine. A little malicious compliance then. I called every single guest, not just the yacht companies, and told them exactly what was happening, how things were changing, and how I was completely against it. I even told them I probably wouldn't be here much longer. Most thanked me for my honesty and said they'd keep in touch. Some local yacht captains came by in person to talk. The yacht companies had no choice but to pay the extra finding. Alternative housing a month before the boat show was impossible. It wasn't easy keeping my professionalism, but almost everyone I spoke to in person or by phone thanked me for my efforts and said they'd never come back. And they'd make sure none of their colleagues did either. If I moved to another hotel, they wanted me to tell them so they could book there. That same week, I handed the owner's daughter my resignation right before the boat show started. Let her clean up all the shit since she was so sure she was in charge. As far as I know, she couldn't handle it. Now the place is run by some shady management company that doesn't care about anything. She's apparently stuck at the front desk. Nobody answers the phone, emails go unread, reviews are terrible. They didn't renew their licenses. They owe commissions to Booking.com and Expedia, and now those companies are threatening to sue. And of course, the owner and his daughter blame me and the former property manager. In their logic, it was our departure that ruined everything. Oh well. Story 3. I trolled a spandex-wearing dad and got away with it. Before this incident, I had worked for about a year at a trampoline park. My job title was supervisor of the play zone. My duties included watching over the main jump area, the basketball trampoline hoops, the dodgeball zone, the foam pit, and the obstacle course. Over the year, I learned this place, the staff, and the regulars inside and out. We had 6-hour shifts with only one 20-minute break, all to the soundtrack of screaming kids and crappy music blasting from the speakers. I especially sympathized with the younger staff. It was not an easy gig. About a month after I quit, I came back just for fun. My favorite zone was always the dodgeball court, so that's where I headed to warm up and have a good time. Supervisors rotate every 20 minutes so the job doesn't get too monotonous, so I knew someone would be coming to swap out soon. At the time, there were about 15 people on the court, mostly a group of 12-14-year-old teens and a couple of older guys, maybe 17-20. A few minutes later, the new supervisor walks in and I recognize him, a new hire named Aaron. For the first 2 minutes, everything's fine. Then his face twists like he's about to puke. He pulls me aside and says he needs to step away. Since I just quit the same job not long ago, he asks me to cover him until he can sort himself out. He looked pale as death. I asked if I should grab the shift lead, but he said they were swamped. We agreed that if Shannon, the shift lead and an absolute legend, showed up, I'd explain and handle it. Aaron rushes off, and I start reffing the game. Nobody objected, they were too busy hurling balls at each other. A few minutes go smoothly until he arrives, Spandex Dad, with his 8-year-old son. You might think I'm exaggerating the nickname, but you'll see why. His kid, let's call him Kevin, was dressed like everyone else. Shorts, t-shirt, special trampoline socks with grip soles. Dad, however, was in black spandex leggings, a tight long-sleeved black Under Armour compression shirt, a black headband, and the cherry-on-top football receiver gloves. All this for a trampoline dodgeball game against people half his age. I immediately knew this was going to go south because Kevin was way too small for this court. Right next to it was a kids zone for under 12s, and Kevin barely came up to my waist. I pointed this out to Dad, but he brushed me off. He'll be fine. Yep, that's how it always starts. So Dad and Kevin hop on the court. I call for the game to start, and less than 10 seconds later Dad gets knocked out trying to catch a slow ball even with his fancy gloves. He steps off to where I'm standing and starts barking instructions at Kevin while trash-talking the opposing team like it's the Super Bowl. Come on, Kevin. Wreck him. Don't squat, move. Faster. Duck. Roll. Duck again. He even quoted a damn movie. Would have been funny if he wasn't screaming it directly into my ear. He paced up and down, clapping those gloves while poor Kevin tried to dodge bullets from guys throwing with near baseball speed. I suggested again that they move to the under 12s court. Dad refused, he can handle it. These little punks are no match for him. I politely asked him to watch his language. You can imagine how well that went. At one point, he even started calling out phantom hits out whenever in his mind an opponent had been tagged. Come on, ref. Didn't you see that? Kevin nailed that asshole. Kevin could barely throw the ball halfway across the court. I ignored him but reminded him again not to swear. This was a family place, not the Olympic dodgeball finals. He didn't care. Maybe that headband was cutting off circulation. Some kids who got hit started leaving the court, unwilling to deal with the screaming, bouncing grown man-child in skin-tight leggings. Dodge, dodge, dodge. He'd clap and yell in my ear. Then, it happened. One of the older teens launched a ball straight into Kevin's face. Square on the nose. Kevin went down like a rag doll. The balls were soft rubber, so nothing broke, but it still hurt. Kevin curled up holding his face. Dad stormed onto the court, got right up in the teen's face, and started yelling, "What the fuck is wrong with you? What kind of bitch hits kids?" He started shoving the teen, who honestly looked guilty enough already. I stepped between them and calmly explained the rules, pointing to Kevin. You said he could handle it. This happens sometimes. Let's calm down, get some ice, and finish the day. Fuck you. Get the manager, you're done. Dad barked, dragging Kevin off. Kevin looked fine, shaken and red-faced, but not seriously hurt. About 5 minutes later, Dad returns with a smug look, Kevin now holding an ice pack to his nose and with Shannon and Erin in tow. Hey, Op, Shannon says. This gentleman claims you let his son get injured on the court. I laughed and shook my head. Nope. Dad insisted his son could play with the 12-plus group. I recommended the under-12 court, but he refused. He also harassed other players and called them assholes. The smug look faded when a few players confirmed my story. He claimed we were lying just to gang up on him. Shannon and Erin's faces made it clear they believed me. Then Kevin tugs Dad's sleeve and asks if they can just do something else. The kid was clearly more mature than his father. Dad finally dropped the line we'd all been waiting for. I hope you fire this asshole, pointing at me, or I'll sue your damn park. Shannon replied, Sir, he doesn't work here. He was just helping an employee who felt unwell. When that sank in, I almost felt bad for trolling him. Almost, Shannon handled the situation like a pro. No one would file complaints, and we'd all just walk away. I was fine with that, especially since the real victim was Kevin. Dad declared he'd never come back to this dump. I saw him again a week later, still sucking at catching balls, though Kevin was now on the under-12 court. Lesson partially learned. From that day, I decided that every time I saw Spandex Dad at the trampoline park, my mission would be to shadow him on the court and help the staff however I could. Hopefully, Kevin turns out okay. He seemed like a good kid stuck with a nutcase dad. At least I got to peg a crappy customer with dodgeballs without consequences. I know a lot of you dream of that. Oh, and one more thing, every visitor signs a waiver saying you can't sue for injuries because, well, it's a damn trampoline park. People get hurt here all the time. That's all for now. Thank you for listening to this story till the end. Don't forget to follow our channel and take care.